Hello again. In the last video, we set up the functionality for client-side effects and visuals and things that were based on the replicated value of current power. In this video, we're going to finally use that multicast function we set up a few videos ago to do the lightning effects on the battery. The first thing I want to do though is go back over our code and remind ourselves about that flow of code before we dig into the implementation in the editor. So I've got Visual Studio open here, and we're looking at the function server collect pickups implementation. So this is when the player is running around collecting pickups. They pick up a pickup, and on the server, the game logic basically finds the pickup, determines that it's a battery, and calls the pickups picked up by function. And the picked up by function in the pickup base class, again on the server, is going to fire off that multicast function, client on picked up by. So all relevant clients are going to receive this function call. It's going to be broadcast out to them, and when they receive it, then they are going to relay the call over, essentially, to call that blueprint native event was collected. And that is where we're going to actually implement this lightning effect. So now we're on the client. We've just gotten the call to was collected, and we're going to create a lightning effect, a visual that the client can enjoy. So let's switch back over to the editor, and we'll get started. We're going to need to do this in the battery, so go ahead and go into our blueprints folder and double click on our BP battery. If it doesn't open in the full blueprint editor, you can click the blue link at the top and it'll open up here. And we're going to put some functionality in here. If you've done Epic's version of this tutorial, this is going to be similar, so we're going to make a few similar changes, but there will be a slight difference toward the end. So the first thing we need to do though is actually we need to go back into our content and find our particle effect for the lightning to make the same changes that in Epic's tutorial that they made. So find the P electricity arc, which we downloaded or migrated into the project from the content examples project, and let's go and make these same variables changed. We need to go into the source, and we need to set the source method to emitter, and then we need to go to the target and go down to the target method and set that to user set. Then we need to click on initial color, and in initial color we need to, mine's already done here, drill down into start color, then distribution, and then constant, and we are going to divide all of these values by 100. So this will be 50 divided by 100. Haha, handy. Remember, Unreal Editor will do the math for you. Although that wasn't entirely necessary, I just did it to illustrate the point. 100, so that'll be 1, and this will be 2.5. Okay, so we are all set there. And that is pretty much all we need to do with this. So we can go ahead and save and bail out of that, and go back into our battery here. And here is where we're going to make some, the actual implementation of our event, and the event was collected. So just right click here in the event graph and search for was collected, and here it is, the event. Now what we're going to need to do is spawn the emitter, and then we're going to attach it from the battery to the player, and then we're going to, or the player's pawn, and then we're going to update that location over and over. Okay, so we need to call the spawn emitter, so that's spawn emitter attached. This is going to be attached. And we need to grab the battery because we're going to attach it to the battery, so you can grab this static mesh component, just drag it in here and drop it on the attached to component. Bam. Then we're going to need to set the target, or set the location type rather, to snap to target including scale. And then we need to actually set the emitter template so you can find it in the drop down, and that's all we need to do with that. And then what we're going to need to do is set the other the other end of the location. So we're going to have to get access to that pawn. Now in Epic's version of this tutorial, they just grab player 0 because it's the assumed and only player in the game. We cannot make that assumption. We have to actually know which pawn we connected to. Well, lucky for us, we are passing that into this into the function call that is then stored in this variable, if you may recall, called the pickup instigator. So there's our pickup instigator. We're going to grab that. Now that is the pawn, but what we need to do is we need to actually cast it down to a character level so we can get access to the mesh. So we're going to drag off of here and cast to, and we can just cast it to our own character type. Why not? And I'm just going to move this stuff real quick. Okay, and then as the battery character, we're going to grab the mesh. So get mesh. Here's the character mesh. We get the mesh. And then we need to get the socket location. So drag off of here. The socket location, get socket location. Oh, and let me just talk about that for a minute. We want to attach one end of the lightning to the battery, which we've done by attaching it to the static mesh component. And the other end we want to attach to the player, the character, the pawn. And so we do that by attaching it to a specific socket. So let's go take a quick look at that. So we're going to go down into back into battery collector. I'm going to go into my third person CPP, and we need to get access. We need to find that character. Here it is. Double click on that, and then we're going to click on the mesh. And over here is the skeletal mesh. Just double click on that. That'll open our skeletal mesh here. And we can take a look at the skeleton just by clicking on the skeleton up here. Epic walks through the same thing, so this is really nothing new, but I just want to make sure we go through it for completeness purposes. And we want to pick a location to attach it. And you can attach that lightning wherever you want. You can attach it to the hand or the head, or you can attach it to the character's pinky if you like. We're going to attach it to up here in the middle of the character. So you'll see here, we're going to attach it right there to spine 03, which is pretty high up. So it'll look like it's hitting him right in the chest. Okay, so spine 03 is where we're going to attach it. So we're done with that, done with that. So when we go back in here, we're going to get the socket location. That location we want is spine _ 03. Perfect. Okay, now we need to actually execute this code from the call. So we're going to go ahead and do the casting, make sure that that works correctly before we press on with the rest of this. So we're grabbing that pickup instigator. We're getting the socket location from that. Then we're going to spawn the emitter. And now what we need to do, now that we've actually spawned the emitter, is we need to set what's called set beam target point. So we need to drag off of here and go set beam target point. Biggity bam. Okay, and the return value is what goes into the target for that. So we're going to set the beam target, and that target point is this socket location. So we're just going to drag over here, drop that right there, and I'm going to go ahead and reroute that a little bit. So let's put in our reroute node, add reroute node, and we'll just drag from here to this, and from this to this, and that looks a little better. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and what this does is this will actually attach the spawn emitter. We're going to set that beam target point to the socket location. But remember, players moving around. So as they move around, that socket location is going to move. We need to update that over and over. So what we're going to do is create ourselves a little loop. We don't need to do it instantaneously to make this update. We don't need to do like this and just circle back around and do it over and over and over. That'd be an infinite loop. So what we need to do instead is we need to just pause for a fraction of a second, and then do this and then update that location again. So we're going to drag off of here, and we're going to put in a delay. So here's our delay, and let's say, so it's pretty close, 0.1 seconds is sufficient. So we'll delay, and then we're going to loop back around here, and once again set the beam's target location. But I don't like that either, so I'm going to put in another reroute node and drag from here to the reroute node, from the reroute node to there. That's a little better. And just resize that a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, just walk through this one more time. So we call the wasCollected function. We're going to go ahead and cast our character. If that actually works, we're going to grab the socket location for the spine 03, spawn the emitter, attach it to the battery, then playing the lightning effect. We're going to set its target point to spine 03's location in the world. Then we're going to delay 1/10 of a second and do the same thing again. Now, if you watch Epic's version of this, they set a 1 second delay and actually called the parent version of was collected, because that's what destroyed the battery, I think. But in our case, that is unnecessary because, as you recall, we on the server side are setting the lifespan of the object so it gets destroyed for us after 2 seconds. So this merely is just needs to keep updating itself, and then the whole thing will get wiped out for us after the lifespan expires. So there's no need for us to do any of those things. So we're going to go ahead and compile and save. Switch back over here, and I believe now we are ready to test. So let's find out if it works. We're going to click play, and I'm going to go ahead and slide this over so we get a better view of both windows. And I'm going to run around and hit E, and I collect it, and there it is. And you can even see on both the client and the server, it's following me around. So I grab some lightning, grab some batteries, and that power is staying with me. And it's working both on the client and the server. Ah, so much power! Okay, let me switch over to the server side and take a look over there because I'm feeling kind of blue. And I'll zip past there. Zip, zip, jump. Wait, I know we're going to grab some and jump up in the air. Yep, it works. It works. Everything is working. Okay, and now both of the characters are fairly well powered up. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We now have, after the last couple of videos, some pretty cool visuals. The character has functional changes in that he walks slower or faster depending on power, and he changes color. The material changes from this orange to a blue as he loses power. And now we have the lightning effects so that we can actually see something happening in the world between the battery and the character, and it makes that little 2-second delay we put in there make a little more sense. That is pretty much it for all of the effects we're going to do in this series. So now we have all that set up. We are done with these core pieces of the mechanics. We still need to add the wind condition and some state handling, which we'll do later. But next, we are going to turn our attention to working on the HUD. And that is going to be a point where we again will diverge more substantially from Epic's version of this tutorial. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video.